Good morning, and welcome to episode 3 of Industry 4.0 in Focus, Automation Alley's weekly virtual event series on digital transformation. So as you guys know, this is getting old. Each week, we take a deep dive into various topics covered in our 2020 Technology and Industry Report. So according to the World Economic Forum, there are already more connected devices than people in the world. By 2025, it's expected that well over 40 billion, that's with a B, 40 billion factory devices will be constantly capturing data on how we live, work, move through our cities, and operate and maintain all kinds of machinery on which we depend. Keeping that data in a centrally located spot is becoming more important than ever. So today I'm joined by Johan Salenstedt, CEO of Configit. He knows a thing or two about configuration technology and how it's improving manufacturing. Johan has over 30 years of experience in executive leadership positions in high growth software companies such as IBM, Adobe, and Click. And I am really pleased to have him join me here today. Welcome, Johan.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, I haven't asked the questions yet, so we'll see how we do as we get through this. Hopefully we'll get really good questions that really let you get engaged. So, but before we get started, Johan, I have to mention that for Automation Alley members, you have access to our 2020 Technology and Industry Report for free, of course, by logging into our member portal at automationalley.com and clicking on the resource tab. So we encourage you to download the report and follow along each week. Also, please feel free to ask questions. So there's a little Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom seminar window, and we encourage you to ask questions, and we'll try and get to them if time permits. So, Johan, can you give our viewers a quick introduction of Configit and the services you provide?
Yeah, sure thing.
Just to set the stage.
I'll set the stage. So basically, Configit has been in operation. This company has been in operation for 20 years now. It's a Danish company. It was founded by two professors with very different backgrounds, one in electrical engineering and one in IT, who were together at the university and were exposed to some of the configuration problems that were very early days in trying to sort out and trying to manage companies' challenges with configuring and managing configuration of complex products, not simple products, but complex products. And what we've done since then, we've grown the company. We now operate in US, in UK, in Germany, and we also have a subsidiary in India for some product developments. And we provide software and we provide services, and we're known as the configuration specialist. Not only that we right. supply and we do services, but we also have the knowledge to work with some of the absolutely biggest brand in the company, in the world.
So let me follow up on that right there. So we just lost a couple listeners, right? So, or viewers, I guess. We're in a new age. So you're the configuration expert. What does it mean to configure things? I mean, how do you collect this configuration data?
No, yeah.
I think I'm confused, and I'm supposed to be an I4O expert, right?
Yeah, well, good question, Tom. So basically, just try to simplify it, because it sounds complex. It is complex, but in all honesty, I probably do the analogy when you design your car. You go online, right? Yeah. You go online with your car. You pick and choose what you want to have. You want to have a certain engine. You want to have some kind of rims and wheels. You want a leather interior or whatever you want, right? And you do your configuration. That configuration is then going to be represented through a number of systems, and it also has a number of stakeholders within the company. Engineers, they model and they design and they make sure that they build some rules for what can be built and what can be sold, right? So what can be sold? Well, marketing and sales has to say, and they say, well, in Europe, for instance, we have different emission rules, right? So you can only sell a number of engines, for instance, or You have a specific regulations in Australia. You need to have a certain airbag or what have you.
Right.
And then you come back also to manufacturing, because basically you need to manufacture what you sell, right? So you need to make sure that all these stakeholders are there to build those rules to make sure that you only sell what you can manufacture, right? You only engineer what you can manufacture, but you only manufacture what you actually are able to sell. So everything needs to come together.
So you're like a system that pulls the right information from the right department with the right rules and makes sure everything plays nice across these different data sets and rules. Is that a fair way?
Yeah. So what we basically do is there's a couple of options, but just trying to generalize. There is, when we come into a customer, the customer is saying, okay, so we want either to reuse some of the rules that we already have. So we import that in our modeling system, because that's where it all starts. We build the models and we create the rules, right? Or the customer say, well, actually, our old rules we just think they're too complex and they're not really used in the right manner. So basically, we remodel everything we have. And we get marketing to say what they want, and we get manufacturer to be involved as well, and we get engineers. Now, the difference is that everyone interacts with when we build the models, we do let everyone interact because it's easy to make happen. Now, normally, all the rules are built in a PLM system. Mm-hmm. The only one who actually understands how to build those rules are the engineers. So it's a very big issue in terms of collaboration. So what happens then is when the rules are done, we compress all that information into a file, a virtual tabulation pattern and technology file that can be read and reused by the manufacturing system, the PLM system, and Salesforce or some other marketing or customer interaction system, a sales portal or whatever. So everything is aligned and everything is working as it should.
And we've talked, let me use English. We've talked before. And one of the things that always stuck with me is that virtual tabulation makes the data retrieval super fast, right? Like you're able to get that and you can use it for marketing, but engineering can maintain it. Okay, so let me take a little right turn here and say, it's 2020. We're in the midst of a global pandemic. Everybody's working from home. How does what you do contribute to being able to continue to work, especially in engineering and on some of these disciplines?
So I probably the best way I could explain that is to referring to a discussion I had with one of my customers a month ago. They're a big car manufacturer, and they basically they've implemented everyththe we have, and they basically gone to the full digital transformation. Now, he said, in the past, we managed all the rules, all the models through Excel files or through documents, and that was cumbersome, and that was difficult to make sure that everyone got to say everything was coordinated. Now, when we work from home, it's impossible. Right. Well, unless we have that central repository of the data, and we need to understand that our way of compressing it is and compiling that is making it super quick, as you say. It's quick, it's understandable, it could be used by all the systems, but it actually not only contains all the modeling part, it contains all the parts as well. So it's a massive amount of data, and unless you have that centrally, I mean, it's really hard to work remotely.
Yeah. So you just touched on a good thing. So we've all lived our careers where people are still working in Excel files, just like you said, and they're coordinating all this data through this central Excel file that is this master document that tries to keep track of everything, and it gets bigger and bigger and more cumbersome. So what we know that you tabulate centrally all of this data.
Yeah.
What do you do with this beyond replacing Excel, right? It's an interesting value prop to say, yes, I can replace Excel with this, but you got to do more than that. There has to be a lot that you can do with that data.
Yeah.
What do you do with it?
So I'll give you an example. So when we then compressed and compile everything, we get the result is what we call the solution space. And solution space basically describes all your models and all your allowable variations, right, of whatever you sell. And in this world, most of the products that are actually manufactured today are pretty complex. It's not like an iPhone with 16 different variations. It's actually, if you sell a pump, if you sell an elevator, if you sell, well, a car, a tractor, or whatever you sell, there's tons of variations, right? So what
perhaps millions or hundreds of millions of permutations, right?
It's hundreds of millions.
Hundreds,
I mean,
wow. Yeah.
One of the customers, it's interesting, one of the customers we have is Jaguar Land Rover. And they basically describe and they say, in the new Land Rover, they basically say that if they would take all the variations, not that they do that, but if they take all the variations and would multiply, they would get more variations and more models than we have people on the planet. Crazy. So I mean, it's crazy amount of variations. Now, what we get is what we call the solution space. And the solution space, basically what you do, you can go analyzing things like how many parts are actually used, how many variations do we sell, what is the majority of models we actually sell. And we found with many of our customers that they actually store parts which are never sold. They which could easily be scrapped. They can analyze and say, well, actually, would it be easy to make this a standard feature of this product instead of, it's 0.0004% that we sell every year, and it's just too costful. So they could look on this solution space and make sure that they use it for financial reasons, but also for making sure that they don't over-engineer what they call low runners and no runners, which is manufacturing language.
Right. Or eliminate that feature entirely because nobody seems to care about
it. Exactly.
Somebody in marketing thought it was a great idea until it wasn't.
Yeah.
That never happens in the automotive.
Oh, no. It's never wrong. Marketing is never wrong, Tom.
So let's turn to our 2020 report. So you were gracious enough to allow us to peer into one of your customers, ABB, and document in our book what happened with ABB in this relationship with Configit. So can you touch on that a little bit? I mean, what problem were you trying to solve with ABB?
Yeah, so ABB, there's a number of divisions with ABB which we have as a customer. Now, this was for electrification. So they sell big systems of electrical components, cities to power plants, what have you, right? And they have a number of different customers. They have, the system integrators, they have the panel builders, they have OEM, and they have the normal customers, end user customers as well. So the problem for them was that they had all these kind of configuration data. They were sitting in different manufacturing systems. They had homegrowns and they had some standard ones. They had some sales systems, which were actually, they have more than 50 different sales ways of communicating sales communication with the customers. And a panel builder, which didn't get the same information as the OEM customers or the system integrators. So there wasn't really any linkage between those. And then it came into the PLM systems, and they basically have every PLM system that there is on the market. So it was quite cumbersome for them to get any kind of making any kind of sense on, what do we do now? We're gonna do the digital transformation, but honestly, we don't have the system in place to make that happen. So how do we make that happen? They came to us to do that.
So let me take it a step down. So ABB, big company, lots of resources, lots of capital. I'm a medium-sized guy, or I'm a little guy, right? How do I overcome these obstacles? I'm trying to transform digitally. What do I do, Johan? I mean, what are my options? A lot of listeners, viewers are going to be saying, but I don't have that kind of unlimited resource. What do I do?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a good question. And this, we need to realize that the problem is just the magnitude of the problem is it's getting bigger for the bigger companies, right? But they do sit with the kind of similar questions, because even if they have unlimited cash, even if they have, they have thousands and thousands and thousands of people that could support and help this out, it also becomes, the magnitude of the problem sitting with over 50 instances of a manufacturing systems. They don't even know what the data relies and lies. So I would say they took a different approach, and I actually think that approach could be feasible for smaller customers as well. They said, okay, where do we start? Do we start from inside out, which means that you actually look on your PLM data, and that's where you start, and you rebuild the models and what have you, and all that kind of stuff. That's a good approach,
right?
But it's long, and it's pretty cumbersome. Yeah. They took the different approach. They said, well, shouldn't we actually take care about our customers firsthand? So we start outside in. So what they did was they skipped the part on the PLM system to start with, and they said, okay, so what we need a simple way, a sales portal, where we can get everyone to share the same configurations, and make sure that we can have guided selling and easy quotation to all of our customers. So they came to us and they said, can you read data, the configuration data, just from the manufacturing system, SAP? Mm-hmm. Can you read that? Can you import that into VT? And we said, yeah, we can do that. We do that pretty much standard on. So we did that. We took that and we read that data, and then we built on top of that, we integrated to a sales portal. So the sales portal contained the manufacturing data. So basically, as a customer, you get guided on what kind of combinations works with, in order to get to manufacture the right product.
So let me make sure our viewers understand what you just said, because what you said was, hey, we can create this sales configuration tool on the web. What I heard was automatic quote generation.
Yeah.
And that's huge, because nothing happens in an organization until a sale is made. If I have a system out on my website that allows customers to help themselves to a quote. And by the way, we all know in manufacturing, what happens is you're busy doing all these quotes. The customer is using it to quote their end customer. Correct. And you may see 1/10 of those orders, maybe 1/20 of those, because everybody's out trying to do the quoting, trying to get spec'd into the job. And then most of it is wasted energy because you're not going to get the job. If you had a system like Configit where it's automatically generating quoting that customers can drop into their customer proposal, you should increase your ability to take business with marginal incremental cost at that point. Am I hearing that correctly?
Correct. So that's actually how ABB started it. So they integrated the sales portal and the sales tool with the manufacturing configuration data. Now, what they've done now, they said, okay, so we're done with that. That's in production. Now we take it the next further, and we also make sure that we get the PLM data. But most of our customers, or many of our customers, would say they never do that. They take the first step and they use this configuration capability more from a CPQ perspective. Mm-hmm. So this VT technology can be used in very many different ways. It's just making sure that you have that file, and that file could be shared between different systems. So you get.
And I imagine if you're empowering the customer to create that file, you eliminate that telephone operator talk where by the time it gets to manufacturing, you're making something the customer didn't want in the first place.
Or you can't manufacture. I mean,
or you can't manufacture it, right?
Because that's usually, I mean, this is what we see. We see customers saying, everyone said to us, we need to go digital, right? So we did the digital transformation. We put a sales tool online, and actually then we have some people in the background. So they try to sort out what there's no link between the sales tool and the manufacturing capabilities and engineering capabilities. And it really is just like, I wouldn't go that far to say putting lipstick on a pig, but pretty close, because
we've lived it,
right?
Yeah, so, manufacturing engineers think salespeople are nothing but liars, and salespeople think I'd never sell anything if I had to put the constraints that you put on me to go sell something, right? So there's this constant tension that exists, but you kind of eliminate a lot of that tension.
We do, because we actually allow, we allow, in this case, we allow sales having an influence on what can be manufactured. And manufacturing is listening to sales because they work in the same tool building these models. So, yeah.
Right. So let's take a quick question. Jeffrey Sage asked us, what is included in your configuration program? Manufacturing systems, engineering systems, IT systems, ERP systems. What do y'all get with? I think I know the answer, but Johan, why don't you help Jeff with that question?
I'm not sure. Can we? So what we do is we supply basically this VT technology and an application on top of that called ACE. And ACE consists of different type of models, so you can start small and grow over time. Modeling capabilities is, of course, something that is essential. And then what you do is, depending on what kind of systems you have, you have integrators towards those systems. That could be Salesforce, that could be SAP, or some we're enhancing our capabilities into PLM as well. So we integrated towards Windchill from PTC, and we've done ARAS and some other stuff as well. So basically, you can kind of tailor what you need at this point in time, and then grow as you become more proficient and need more things.
So yeah, before I had a question for you, but I saw Dan Furman, one of our friends, asked a question. Aren't there a lot of customers who would rather talk to a human being? I think that's a great question. I want to ask you that. I have an answer for that too, but Johan, what do you think?
No, our customers hate to speak to. No, they of course. I mean, it's interesting though. I just think that we need to understand that not everything is solved by just automating everything, and we know that. But just eliminating the prone for issues in terms of we see many of our customers basically saying it cannot take 2 weeks to create a quote. And for some customers, like if you are one of our customers, they build buses, right? So many times there is a state or a municipality who comes out in an RFP and say, we're going to buy 210 buses. And they're gonna be looking like this. Can you provide us a quote? And it's 2 weeks. And sometimes they actually have to say no, because they can't risk the cost of quoting wrong.
And Johan, I would add to that. So Dan's question is apropos, because this all the time as we go down this digital strategy, whether it's you with Configit or anything in the I4O world, they think it's digital or human.
No.
And it's always digital and human. So in other words, if your software allows the customer to get, through this quote process and have them educate you on exactly where they need help, you've saved all that time for both of you.
Yeah.
Right? Because otherwise they're talking to you and they're spending the first half hour of the call just trying to get you to a place where they have a technical question.
Yeah.
And if the system allows you to be instantly educated along with them, and you're like, oh, well, here's your problem. We can't make that. What you're trying to do.
No, that's true. And I, many of our customers, they do sell, like Philips Lighting, for instance. They sell lighting systems to cities. I mean, there's no There's no customer who just do a couple of clicks and buy a lighting system for, I don't know, 10 million bucks online. They don't. So it's just some of them keep them, just as a support for internal sales, who then contact customers, and some not. But it's just making sure that you get everyone involved who understands what you actually should promote and should sell to the market, and you manufacture that with 0 errors. That's it. So
awesome.
So
we're just about out of time, Johan, but I wanted to, it goes by fast, doesn't it? I mean, it feels like we just started this conversation, but I want to make sure our viewers know where to start. So in other words, we spend a lot of time talking about the tactics of implementing a configuration system, but say I'm divorced from that and I'm one step up the river. What do I need to think about to say, how do I get started? What do I need to think about or do that would then put me in a position to call Johan and say, hey, I'm ready to have a conversation?
Yeah. I think it's short. I mean, if you look on, we call it the configuration lifecycle management, and it consists of different things and different departments. It consists of engineering, right? Who has a problem with how you model and how you make sure that you actually use the right rules for selling and manufacturing, right? Or you have a sales problem where you actually cannot, you're too slow on quoting, or it's just too cumbersome. So you're losing market share because what you do is you quote products that you cannot manufacture. And then you have manufacturing is, okay, you don't get the right bills of materials, and the bills of materials from engineering is not aligned with the one in manufacturing. So it's just a mishmash, right? Usually it starts with either a sale from sales, or it starts from engineering. Those are usually the two areas. And I would say engineering is a bit more cumbersome, and long term it's probably the right way to start. But I would always look from an external, from an outside in perspective. Okay, how can we make sure that we can provide better service to our customers, to our distributors, to our resellers, or what we have, and make sure that we start there and go back. Now, that's usually an easier way of getting it done.
Excellent. Well, I think we'll leave it there. So, Johan, thanks for joining me today. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me. Great time, and I hope we're giving some great info to the listeners and to the viewers.
Well, you did for me, but I'm a professed nerd, so I really wanted to understand what it is you're doing, how you do it, why you do it. I'm still an engineer at heart, even though I haven't practiced engineering in 30 years, right? It's been a long, long time. I've forgotten more equations than I ever knew, but it's still interesting to talk about. So thank you, Johan.
Thank you.
So one last housekeeping moment. So for our viewers today, please join us. Same bat time, same bat channel. That's a throwback to, if you guys know what that reference is, let me know. For episode 4, it'll be on August 4th, next week, as we break down IT and OT convergence with David Shippers, good friend of the Alley. He's the chair and assistant professor of information technology decision sciences at Walsh College. And I can't wait to have that conversation with Dave.